Welcome to ACF Chefs Forum. We appreciate you tuning in today to learn what all the buzz is about. Now, more than ever, and especially during this difficult time, it's important for culinarians to connect, to share, and to offer inspiration and mentorship, which is exactly why we're excited to have Master Chef Joseph Leonardi here with information just for you, the leaders of the food service industry. Before we begin, as a note, we will be taking questions from you, the viewers, as we are able. Please use the chat function to collaborate with other chefs and the Q&A function to pose questions directly to Chef Leonardi. So let's get the conversation going in the chat. Tell us where you're tuning in from today. I'm Jackie Pressinger, American Culinary Federation's Director of Strategic Partnerships, and I am honored to introduce our guest today. Please join me in welcoming Master Chef Joseph Leonardi, the Director of Culinary Operations at the Country Club in Chestnut Hill, Massachusetts. In his role, Chef oversees a full-time culinary team of 30 chefs and cooks and is responsible for all food and beverage on property. Chef is a graduate of Johnson Wales University, having earned his bachelor's degree in culinary arts and a master's degree in applied teaching. An avid competitor, Chef Leonardi has amassed numerous awards at the regional, national, and international level. Chef Leonardi has earned the award of USA's Chef of the Year at the ACF National Convention in 2019, and was also inducted into the ACF's prestigious American Academy of Chefs in 2020. Chef has also notably earned the prestigious title of Certified Master Chef, CMC, the ACF's highest and most demanding level of achievement in the culinary industry. And he is also the only CMC in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Chef Leonardi is past manager and team member for ACF Culinary Team USA, and has won over 20 medals and 20 gold medals and numerous silver medals during the past 15 years. And in 2016, under his direction, elevated ACF Culinary Team USA to world champion status in culinary arts display. Additionally, Chef is founder of Leonardi Culinary Management Concepts, a consulting firm that assists in various food and beverage operations with strategic planning and development. And in his spare time, Chef enjoys beekeeping, and as a result, established the organization Leonardi Apiary and Gardens, whose goal it is to educate communities regarding the importance of bees and the impact on our environment. So, such an amazing list of accomplishments, and I know I only named a few, but thank you for joining us today, Chef. And at this time, I will pass Cooking with Liquid Gold presentation over to you.
Hi, everybody. Hope everyone's doing well and safe during this. Hopefully it's the end of our pandemic. I know a lot of us have been doing Zoom calls, and kind of different for us over the last year, but definitely looking forward to our national convention in August and getting a chance to see everybody live there and, reuniting friendships. The Zoom call is kind of a little strange for me sometimes. Sometimes I feel like I'm out here talking to myself, and I hope I don't get long-winded on all of you. But let me share my screen. We'll get started. As you can see behind me, this is one of my apiaries. This is my home, but this is definitely a spot where we raise bees here and bring them out to different communities within the state of Massachusetts, as well as Rhode Island. I'm going to share my screen. So just some things that I thought that we can talk about today, and kind of just bring everybody up to speed. First off, I'll give you a quick little history of the business and how I got started into this. I mean, it really started off as a hobby, but we'll get into that in a little bit. We'll also talk about the characteristics of honey and exactly what it is and how the honey gets from the flower to the beehives and then also to our table or our morning tea or, however we decide to use it. I also think it's really important that we talk a little bit about pollination and the impact that bees have on our food source. And, I'll share some fun statistics with all of you about that. We'll also talk a little bit about some benefits of using honey. And another big question that I get is crystallized honey. And, what to do with it. Is it good? Is it not good? And I'll kind of give you my insight on all of that. Hopefully, if I don't get long-winded, we'll be able to have a quick cooking demo, and I'll show you some dishes that we use at my country club, the country club up here in Chestnut Hill, and go from there. So how did this all start? I mean, this business started a little over 6 years ago when I joined the country club. We had a couple of beehives there on property, and we really weren't sure how to handle bees. To be honest with you, even myself, nobody really even wanted to go near the beehives. Unfortunately, all of the bees absconded, they flew away. And the 2 beehives that were there, we felt that it was a good time for us to remove them off the property. Well, I got stuck with that task of removing them. So when I went over to the bee colonies that were empty, they were so heavy, I couldn't even lift them. And I didn't quite put 2 and 2 together yet. But when I separated the 2 boxes, this aroma of floral notes came out. Dug deeper and deeper into these boxes, I realized that what I was seeing was 80 pounds in one box, 100 pounds in another box of all capped honey. Beautiful amber gold color, a beautiful white wax over it. And at that point, I was hooked. So I started beekeeping. I was a YouTube beekeeper, which I highly don't recommend doing. I failed miserably at my first year at beekeeping. I lost all my beehives. And I decided it was if this was something that I wanted to do as a hobbyist, I needed to learn. So I joined our Norfolk County Beekeepers Association. Great mentorship, great learning, great teaching. I took a 10-week course with them, very similar to the ACF. And I learned how to beekeep. 6 years later, I went from 2 colonies. I have 30 bee colonies right now. My goal is to try to get up to about 45 or 50 bee colonies by the end of this season. Currently in about 6 locations, and I went from doing 60 pounds of honey, which is 1 5-gallon pail, up to last year was almost 1,000 pounds of honey. The year before that was about 900 pounds of honey that we were able to harvest. So quick, easy hobby. I never dreamt that this was going to happen, but here we are 6 years later. We're producing honey, we're flavoring honey, and cooking a lot with it. And it's great. I love every minute of it. So what is honey? So in the past, we always considered honey as some form of a sweetener, whereas today, we know honey that it contains many beneficial substances, excellent with nutrients, amino acids, minerals, seasonal allergies. I can't tell you how many people call me up in this town or in surrounding areas saying that they want the honey as soon as it starts being stored in the hives because they have severe allergies. Okay, because of the antibacterial and antioxidant properties, it's also widely used in folk medicine. Well, as you know, honey comes out of the beehives. There is no other processing that needs to be done with it. The bees make it, the beekeeper takes it, and you're able to use it right away. You don't have to process it. You don't want to be heating it up to high heats or anything. It's one-stop shopping. If you have a beehive, and if there's any beekeepers on right now, you know that when you open up that hive and there's some of that honey dripping down that comb and you taste it, there's nothing more floral, fresh tasting than that honey right out of the hive. We also know that honey is sweet. It's viscous food substance, and that the honeybees make this from nectar, the sugary secretions from plants and flowers. Okay. Now the color is going to depend on a couple of things. One, it's going to depend on the plant or the flower where they're getting it from. It's also going to depend on the time of year. So up here in New England, we're just, I wouldn't even say that we're even starting any type of nectar flow yet. Dandelions are just starting to come up. That's their first food source. Flowers are just starting to blossom up here. We're finally hopefully out of the cold temperatures. But it depends on the flowers or plants. And then it also depends on the time of year. So springtime for us, you're going to see a more floral, light in color honey. As we go further into the season, which brings us to like September, you're going to see a deeper, darker amber color, deeper flavor, earthy toned honey. However, it all depends on the flower. So here's a good example. I'll show you. This here, see if I can show you. This here is wildflower honey, okay? It's called wildflower honey because I don't know where the bees are getting that honey, okay? It could be clover, it could be dandelion, it could be my apple blossoms that are behind me. They're getting that nectar from anywhere. This here is knotweed honey. So I was fortunate enough to have a couple of hives in an area where knotweed was grown, which is a real invasive plant that bees absolutely love. Homeowners don't, so homeowners will actually take it out of their yards or their surrounding areas, but the bees absolutely love it. This honey here, you're going to have lots of floral tones. You can see it's light in color. The knotweed honey, completely different. So the knotweed honey, you're going to have some dark caramel tones to it, molasses flavor. This is wonderful to make like Boston brown bread, bran muffins, things like that. We utilize a lot of this honey up here. So the USDA has a scale for honey. Some of you might laugh at this. They classify the different colors of honey. They'll call it water white, extra white, extra light amber, amber, and then dark amber. Okay. So now, as I mentioned, all honey will begin with that nectar. Okay. Nectar is about 80% water. Okay. So water, sugar, fermentation, not a good thing. Okay. As we know, it's very thin. It's a very thin solution, colorless, and nearly not as sweet as honey. Honey frames, when you have them, if they had nectar, so when the bees come back to the hives and they put that nectar into those, as we know it as honeycomb, if we take that frame out and we turn it on its side, all that nectar will fall out. Whereas if that's filled with honey, okay, with a much lower water percentage, and you turn that frame on its side, that honey is not going to come out, okay? Through the use of enzymes, okay, bees are able to convert that complex sugar in nectar into simple sugars. Therefore, honey is more easily digested than regular table sugar, okay? Its sugars in honey are glucose and fructose, okay? And they're the simple, like sucrose is table sugar, okay? So 99 or 95 to 99% of solids in honey are sugar, okay? Now bear with me here because I am not a scientist. I'm a chef, but I'm going to tell you how this is broken down. So pure cane sugar, okay, is almost all sucrose, okay? It's in the form of two simple sugars, okay? They're joined together. Sometimes it's called a double sugar. Sucrose, which is found in nectar, is made up of the simple sugars, glucose and fructose, okay? Excuse me there, okay? Fructose and glucose have the same chemical formula, even though that they're two different sugars, okay? Simply because their atoms are arranged differently. Because of that, fructose tastes much sweeter than glucose, which is typically why you'll see that honey tastes sweeter than your normal table sugar that you would use if you use it in coffee or tea or something like that, but just simply because it contains more fructose, okay? The honeybees here are the chemists. Using the enzymes and dehydration, these little scientists of the natural world are able to change the sugar in nectar into the supersaturated power food that we know as honey, okay? I hope I'm not losing you here with some of this. So honeybees have a pretty strict routine here, okay? And they follow a pretty good protocol when it comes time to making honey. Now remember, they're the natural chemist here. It's not me. I don't do anything to the honey. If anything, I take the honey and I'm adding different flavors to it, whether it's some form of chilies or chocolate or anise or something along that line. But the bees here are truly the natural chemists, okay? Each hive has these forager bees, okay? And their sole responsibility is to go out and find where the nectar is, okay? So they're gonna go out, they're gonna go find this nectar, they're gonna pull it, they're gonna suck it in through their proboscis, which is that long straw that comes out of their face, it's like a tongue. And then they store it in a little stomach called a crop, okay? Now, in that crop, when the bees start to fly back, they add an enzyme to that nectar called invertase, okay? And while they are carrying the nectar back, that enzyme is added to it. This starts breaking down the sucrose into glucose and fructose, okay? Now, the forager bees make their way back to the colonies, okay? And now they need to transfer this nectar that they just went and got to the other bees, okay? This process will continue each time another bee picks up the nectar. Now, you can draw your own conclusions to this, and you can think however you want. You can call honey bee puke, you can call it disgusting, but the only way that the bees are going to get that nectar to the other bee is to regurgitate it. So, yeah, I know, gross, but it tastes good, okay? So they will do this process for over about a 20-minute period, which further breaks down those sugars in the, in the nectar, let's just say, okay? When that nectar reaches about 20% of water, it's now deposited at that time into the honeycomb. Then what happens is you're going to see some bees, they're going to stand over it, very similar to the picture that's up there right now. And then they start to flutter their wings. And what they're doing is fanning that nectar. And this here is dehydration. So now what they're doing is trying to dry out that honey and lower the water content so that it's about 15 to 18% in water. At that point, now they're going to take it and store it somewhere else in the hive. If the hive is full, then they'll end up keeping it where they have it now. They store it for two reasons. One, food source. So I know I'm not down in sunny Florida, and you saw by some of the pictures the snow up here that we get. Well, during the wintertime, the bees don't go out and fly, and they still need to eat. So they're going to store that honey inside their hives for a food source. That's why it's really important that after a certain time, we don't take any, well, you shouldn't be taking any honey from where the bees actually live. But there will come a time that you don't want to take the honey from the hives, especially up here in New England, because the bees do go into a winter phase. The other part why they store it is they take the pollen, they mix it with the honey, they make something called bees bread, and that's what they feed to the larvae in the hive. So, any quick questions on that, or everybody good with that? We kind of understand a little bit about honey and how it's made, and it's actually a pretty remarkable process that those bees do. So here's just the honey stomach here on the bee. I figured I'd show you guys that. And then I'll show you this here. That's their little stinger where, you know, why everybody hates bees so much. So now here's a little question for you. How many flowers do bees need in order to collect enough nectar to make 1 pound of honey? So there's a quick poll up there right now. Let's see if anybody can get it. We'll just wait here a minute. I love it. This thing here is awesome. All right, I'm going to end the polling here. So right now it looks like 220,000, 37%, oh no, 60% of people said that. Let's see where we're at. How do I get rid of that? Honeybees must gather nectar from 2 million flowers to make 1 pound of honey. This here is 1 pound of honey. Just think of the flying that bees need to do in order to make that for us. I have something else here I'll share with you about distance and things like that. But I mean, to me, those little creatures flying all around to hit 2 million flowers just to make this for us is just simply amazing. So I want a quick chat about pollination because I really think it's important. And I'll be very honest with you. When I first started beekeeping, it really wasn't about the pollination aspects of the bees. And I really didn't know that much about the bees and the impact that the bees have. The more I get into it, the more reading I do and the more studying I do, it is crucial that these little chemists or bees or whatever you want to call them, just how they impact our food source here, not only in the United States, but throughout the world. So here's a quick little question for you, and we'll set up there another poll. But how far does a bee have to fly in order to retrieve enough nectar to produce 1 pound of honey? So again, we're just talking about this little jar here. How far do they need to go? All right, we're going to end the poll in here. And 44% of you say 900 miles. Guess what? Uh-oh. One bee has to fly 90,000 miles. That's like 3 times around the globe to make 1 pound of honey. Blows your mind. Blows your mind. Okay. So honeybees gather pollen and nectar for their survival. They pollinate the crops such as apples, cranberries, melons, broccoli, some crops including blueberries, cherries, 90% dependent on honeybee population. One crop, and I know I know I didn't. This would have been a good question for you. One crop here in the United States depends solely on honeybee pollination at the time of their bloom. And I don't know if anybody knows it, but the almonds, okay? Almonds depend entirely on the honeybee population at time of bloom, okay? 3/4 of our world's flowering plants and 35% of our world's food crops depend on animal pollinators to reproduce, okay? Bees pollinate 80% of the world's plants, including 90 different food crops. Think of this, 1 out of 3 or 4 bites of food that you eat, of food, you should give thanks to the bee, okay? The honeybee is responsible for over $15 billion US agricultural crops each year, okay? It's amazing how these little creatures have this much impact on our food source. Bees and other pollinators serve as by spreading pollen, plant sperm, okay? That's really the only way how to look at it, around to the flower ovaries. A flower has to be pollinated in order for you to set fruit, okay? Do I still have connection?
We still
Matt?
have you, Chef. Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. I got a weird notice, so. All right, so a flower needs to be pollinated in order to set its fruit, okay? Or begin to create that juicy ovary, let's call it, that becomes apples and peaches and fruits like that. Some fruits are self-pollinating and can fertilize themselves without any bees involved. We won't even go there, okay? But bees are perfectly adapted to pollinate, helping plants grow, breed, and produce food for us. Most plants we need for food rely on pollination, especially by honeybees, okay? Think of the almond crop that's out in California, okay? That crop solely depends on honeybee pollination. It's not uncommon to see tractor trailer loads of bees, and probably down south, you would see it more often than up here in New England. Up here in New England, we would see this for blueberries. We see for the cranberries out here by Cape Cod. But large trucks of beehives, and I think one truckload carries about 2,000 hives of bees. But these commercial beekeepers will actually take their hives and place them at these farms where there's cranberries or the almonds or apple trees, and will pollinate their crops in order to generate food for us. As pollinators, bees play a part in every aspect of the ecosystem. They support the growth of trees, flowers, and other plants, which serve as food and shelter for creatures, large and small. Bees contribute to a complex, interconnected ecosystem that allows a diverse number of species to coexist. Well, with every good thing, there's always something negative or bad that has to be brought up. And a lot of people say, well, Chef, are bees are going extinct, and should we be concerned because of the way how because they pollinate all of our food sources? 1 to 1,000 extinction rates right now are 1 to 1,000 times higher than normal due to human impacts, due to us, okay, and by our habits and things that we do. So whether that's land use, landscape structure, maybe we're clearing fields and not doing anything with it, in intensive agriculture practices, pesticides, all of this will impact the honeybee population. I'm not going to get into what's right, what's wrong, what you should be doing. I'm not going to even touch that political side of it. But like I said, before I knew the impact that honeybees actually had on our food sources here, I was one of those neighborhood freaks that would not want a dandelion at all in my yard. And now today, I don't really care if there's dandelions because I do know the impact that these bees have on our food source throughout the world. So there's a saying here I have up there, honey isn't man-made. We're not making it. It's truly, we're only guiding the bees. We're helping the bees. We're supporting the bees. It's all done by them. Here's just a quick slide I wanted to just throw up there for you. It's just about some health benefits about eating raw honey. I would say that probably the biggest question that I get about raw honey is seasonal allergies. I know growing up, my mother would always take a spoonful of honey, a little lemon juice, and would stick it in my mouth when I had a sore throat or when I was sick. It would definitely help soothe some sore throats and things like that. But for me, the number one question that I get is seasonal allergies. And I would tell you this, I take it this time of year on a regular basis just to help with my allergies. So, crystallized honey.
Chef, I'm going to interject real quick. It looks like your slides did not advance on our end. So I'm not sure if that's showing on your end or not. I just wanted to double check.
It is. What slide are you on, Matt?
I still see the how far does a bee have to fly in order to retrieve enough nectar slide. So what I'm going to recommend is that you stop sharing your screen briefly and then restart it. And it might just be a glitch in the system.
Okay. And Jackie, I'm not sure if anybody has any questions.
Yes, we're seeing quite a few questions come in. Whenever you're ready, I could ask a few.
Sure. How's that? Does that come back up? I'm sorry, Jackie.
We're back on track. That's on crystallized honey.
Perfect. Go ahead, Jackie.
Well, that's actually right what one of the questions was about your recommendations once the honey has crystallized, making it viscous again, and any recommendations there.
Yeah. So the crystallization process of honey is natural. A lot of that has to do with the way how the honey is being stored, whether it's downstairs in your basement in a dark area. So this drives me nuts, but some people store it out in their garage. So up here in New England, we're going from sub-zero temperatures to 70, 80 degrees. That'll change like that up here in a day. So that temperature flux is going to help or will impact the honey and will promote that crystallization. Basically, the glucose strands in the honey get separated. The picture on the right, you'll see that's the crystallized honey down on the bottom. And then up above that is more of that fructose water substance. There's nothing wrong with it. It's all edible. Honey isn't going to go bad. It can ferment on you over time, but it will not go bad. All that I do, there's two things. If you have crystallized honey and you want to make it liquefied, you can take the jar of honey, take the cap off, put it into a pot with water, and gradually bring up the temperature. Bring it up to about 100 degrees or so, shut it off, and let the honey jar sit in that water. Let both the water and the honey cool off, and then that there should liquefy your honey. The other thing that you can do, and this is something that I do more often than liquefying the honey. If you have a little Hobart mixer, take the honey and take the crystallized honey, put it down inside the Hobart mixer with a paddle, and slowly start to turn that crystallized honey. Over time, that crystallized honey will turn into creamed honey, but there's a process to it. So you got to cream it for a little bit, let it sit and rest. All the air will start to come out of it. Cream it again for a little bit, and you don't want it to on like second gear or third gear or like overdrive or anything. You don't want to promote that friction and heat. Just take the crystallized honey, turn it a few times, let it sit. Turn it a few more times for a couple of minutes, let it sit. before you know it, all the crystals will have broken down, and that honey will be creamy, smooth texture, almost like softened butter. That's very spreadable. You know, you could put it on anything, English muffins or a crumpet or pancakes, whatever your heart desires, you can put it on. But it's just another way how to use that crystallized honey. So, any other questions, Jackie?
Yes, certainly. Well, they may not be directly related, but we did have a question that had come in about how can you determine quality in honey, specifically finding one that doesn't have any additives or sugar added.
Yeah, so that all comes down with the labeling. If somebody's calling honey raw, there should be no processing that's been added. You know, we're not adding any type of liquid form of sugar to it. We're not processing it in any way, shape, or form. It really comes down to the labeling. Good quality honey, you're going to be able to see it. It should be clear. You should be able to see through it. Raw honey, like if I was to hold this up, you can see at the top of the jar, right up around here, there's a little pollen that has actually floated up to the top of the jar. That's okay. I mean, people know that by the word raw on the honey. So.
Great. Would you like to take any other questions? Right now we have about 20 minutes left for the presentation.
Jackie, what I'll do is I'm just going to move my camera. Okay. I'm going to set up, and then if there's questions, I can answer them while I'm doing it, if that works for you.
Sounds great. Yes, thank you.
I need that bowl, if you can grab that. No questions?
Oh, yes, sorry. One of the questions was, is there a certain percentage or amount of honey produced that the bees need to actually survive? And do they purposely overproduce?
So it's hard for me to say if they purposely overproduce. I would say that the beehives up here in New England, we need to have in one box, which is, I'm trying to show you, but one box should have about 80 pounds of honey in it in order for them to survive. Now, if you have a really good, strong colony, that colony should have about 160 pounds of honey in it in order for those bees to make it through the winter. Now, down south or Midwest, those areas, that number can change a little bit, but up here in New England, that's I strive to have, you know, about 150 pounds of honey in those hives before I put them down for the winter.
All right.
Put that over there.
That's great. Well, I have another one while you're still getting set up, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
And one of the chefs would like to know, do you make mead with your honey, or you know, any recommendations around that?
So I've tried to make a little mead. I have not been successful at it. I am hoping at some point in time that I will be able to make some mead with it and go from there. Not to say that I don't like drinking it, because I definitely do, but you know, that's just another process that needs to be learned, and I'm almost there, not quite.
Got it. And one of the other questions came in was just about honey not being vegan, and if you have any viewpoints, or potentially, I guess, how you handle that at your club.
It's well, they're correct. I mean, it's made by an animal, so you know, it is not, you know, it's not vegan. They can't eat it. I don't have an answer for that. You know, most people would know if they come to the club that they're not going to have it. really, at the end of the day, I think it's more of a preference if that person wants it or not. We do have some people that do take it. They'll put it in their tea or something like that in the morning. But no, they're correct on that.
All right.
All right. So, oh, I'm sorry, Jackie. Go
No,
ahead.
I was going to say we have a couple more, but we can get to them after your demo.
All right. So we could probably do it while I'm doing some of this too, just to try to make sure that I get as many questions as possible. But we have a great spring salad that's on our menu at the Country Club. We have, if you want to bring the camera over, Bella, I kind of hijacked my daughter this morning or this afternoon to kind of help me here. But we have a great dish, a spring dish that's on our menu. This is a creme fraiche panna cotta, seasoned with some fresh herbs. And we set that into a bowl. And then what we do is we take some heirloom carrots. We'll shave the heirloom carrots down. We'll get some fresh asparagus, some snow peas, maybe a little speckled radicchio. And then what we do is we'll start to make a beautiful mixture with that. I like pancetta, so I definitely use some rendered pancetta in that. And then what we did is I took a little, some fresh blackberries and honey, and we made a little dressing with that, little champagne vinaigrette. Put this over here. I'm going to toss that all together. Throw in there a little radish. Jackie, are there any beekeepers out there?
We do have one, Chef Jimmy Westman, CEC from Bottom Stung Beekeepers in Orlando, has identified himself as being on the call.
Wonderful. I always wondered how beekeeping down there or down in the southern states differed from up here in New England.
Well, I will have to connect you for sure. And it looks like we might have another beekeeper who's watching as well. So it's great
Wonderful.
to see the chefs taking up this interest. We did have another question that came in, Chef. I don't know if you wanted to answer while you're going. And the chef was wondering, how is granulated honey made?
So granulated honey is probably just dehydrated honey. We would take it, we would put it into a dehydrated. This is the way how we do it. And we remove all of the moisture that is in there. It usually takes about 48 hours, the process that we use up here. And any honey that we process and I don't want to use that word process because that's not what we do. Any of the honey that we work with, I try not to apply any heat to it. So all of the honeys that we infuse here, all of the honeys that we work with and like the dried out honey or crystalled honey, we try to do as little to no heat as possible, just so that we are able to keep the natural benefits of honey in it. And, you know, we're not cooking it. So this here, turn this on. So this here was that salad that we were talking about. The creme fraiche panna cotta, some shaved asparagus, some shaved heirloom carrots, some radishes, some baby field greens, pancetta, and then a little crispy potato on top with the blackberry honey vinaigrette all tossed in it.
That looks amazing.
It's a little different cooking outside here. than it is in the kitchen. So, all right. We have a halibut dish here that I'm going to quick do for you. Okay. So this here is a pan-seared halibut that we're going to do. Hopefully my pan will get hot enough for us. And if it doesn't, I'm going to jump to the dessert, and we can always come back to this. Jackie, though, any other questions that I can answer?
Yes, Chef. We have a question that came in that was asking how to deal with a swarm, and if it happened to you, did you adopt that colony?
Can you just repeat that one more time?
Sure. One of the chefs was wondering if you've ever had to deal with a swarm of bees, and if so, did you adopt that colony?
Oh, yeah. I've been fortunate enough. I was able to capture a couple of bees, a couple of bee swarms, some fairly large. Two of them were fairly large. They're up on either on our website or on YouTube. You can see the swarms. But I was able to climb the tree. One of them, a tree snapped up at the top. It was probably about 30 feet high. Most people know me. I'm not afraid of heights, but 30 feet up there on a ladder that was kind of going like this back and forth, I was, yes, I was scared. But I was able to get up there. I actually pulled the whole hive out, comb by comb, stuck it in a 5-gallon pail, lowered it down. Somebody down on the ground took out the comb, and we did that process for about 20 minutes, and I was able to get that colony out. I did not think I had the queen because the colony was there for about 4 days before I was able to rescue it. And after I got the swarm into a box, the following day, I was able actually to find a queen in there. And yes, I still have both of those swarms. Both hives are doing great. They're thriving. And yeah, definitely a cool experience. That's for sure.
Great. That sounds fabulous. And one of the other questions that came in was about, are there any common mistakes that you see when chefs start beekeeping at their properties, or what would be the first step a chef should do if they're considering?
To be honest, Jackie, one of the first things that really anybody needs to be doing, they need to understand what beekeeping is all about. And a lot of people feel that you can just take bees and put them into a box and then you don't need to worry about them. That is so false, because there is so much work that you need to do with beekeeping. So I would get involved with a organization, a local bee organization that is in your area. Get some type of mentorship, get some lessons behind you. But that's how I would really start up about beekeeping. That was definitely the mistake that I made. I thought I can YouTube it, and that's not true at all. Okay, you definitely cannot YouTube and watch somebody down in southern Florida or Georgia, how they raise their bees compared to the way how we do it up here in New England. It just, it doesn't work. Anything else, Jackie?
Yes, chef. So I know that there's at least 3 people who have identified themselves as beekeepers. So this looks like a beekeeping question. They're wondering Do you have to fence off hives in Massachusetts?
Western Massachusetts, yes. Where I'm located by the shore in this area, no. But definitely, as you go west in Massachusetts, you definitely do. So this here is just a little anise honey that we're going to put in there. And I'm going to help glaze this piece of halibut. So it's seared halibut with a anise honey glaze. And then I'm going to put a little pea puree with it. Just a little persilade on top. Do out there a little seared. How are we doing on time, Jackie?
Looks like we have a little under 10 minutes.
Okay.
Go a little bit longer. That's all right. We're seeing a lot of oohs and ahs on the chat and message and text right now.
Great. Try it. I want to try to get it all done for you. Little chicken stock.
Chef, we do have a question from one of the viewers, and one of the chefs was actually wondering if you might be willing to share what you found most challenging about the CMC exam.
Absolutely, I will. And anybody that knows me, I always talk honest about it. Most people know the first time I took it, I failed. And I cooked all 8 days back then, and I didn't make it. And I look back today, and the reason why I didn't make it, in my opinion, I didn't have fun, and I didn't enjoy myself while I was cooking, and embracing the food, embracing the challenge. Yeah, I just didn't enjoy it. And I can say that the second time that I took it, it made me really reflect back on myself, and how I cooked and how I handled myself in the kitchen. And the second time, I can honestly say that I had fun cooking, and it definitely showed. It showed in my food. It showed with the people that were watching me and critiquing me. It was great. I had a great time. So to me, you know, some advice for those people that want to take the exam, which I think anybody that's out there that is able to cook, I mean, it's a cooking exam at the end of the day. It's nothing more, it's nothing less. Just go out there and have fun, cook good flavors, cook what you know. Don't go there and cook things that you don't know, and you'll be fine. And you know, Jackie, that was probably one of the biggest things that happened to me was I just didn't have fun the first time. And, you know, the second time I definitely had fun. I was more confident in my skills, and I learned a lot about myself.
That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing. And oh my gosh, this dish looks fantastic. Gorgeous.
It's a little different when you're cooking outside on your patio and trying to do this. But I wanted to be outside. You know, I felt that seeing the beehives in the back were important. So, but here's just a little halibut dish. Pan-seared halibut with a anise honey glaze. Peas, English peas right now up here in New England are at the height. And then just some edible flowers, and then a little potato cauliflower puree. So.
Fabulous. That looks incredible. And as one of the viewers just commented, you're certainly a real chef. You can cook anywhere, even outside. So I love it. Yeah. Chef, I was also wondering if you might be able to address a question that had come in advance. I know it's been a very tough year for everyone, and especially those in food service. I'm wondering if you might have some words of advice or encouragement to those chefs who are tuning in today.
Yeah, I mean, I could speak for us up here, and I know in different parts of the country, things have been opening up differently, and regulations throughout this whole pandemic have been different throughout the whole country. The key for me was to continually support the staff that was at the country club, which was important. And I found strength in that through my leaders. My leaders provided the strength and vision for me to know that, hey, we are going to get through this, and that we will be successful. I tried to relay that message onto all of our cooks and others that worked in the food and beverage department, but it was really about support and sharing and leaning on each other. There were many days where, sorry, there's something flying around. You know, there were many days and times where people wanted to throw in the hat and just look for a new career. And my question to them was, could you picture yourself doing something different? You know, when deep down inside you truly do love cooking and providing for people. And that's how I found the strength to continue forward. And I know that this is what I love to do. This is, I mean, it might sound corny, but I feel this is the reason why I'm here, to cook. I love to cook. I love to play with food. Food is what makes people happy. I remember when, you know, I was 15 years old and I worked in the bakery, and every Sunday morning, we would make fried zeppelis. We would be pulling breads out of the ovens. And I remember people would walk down the street, they would come into the bakery, and the smiles that they would have on their face when somebody handed them warm zeppelis or cannolis or whatever the pastry was, a warm bread. I mean, Christ, everybody goes crazy over warm bread that's coming out of the oven. You put warm bread in a paper bag. It's like you know, are making miracles happen. But food is what makes people happy. And there's nothing more satisfying for me than to see the reaction of food on or people's expressions when they're eating. And that's what I just kept on telling myself throughout this whole pandemic. I don't know if that answered your question, but I hope it did.
I'd say it certainly did, and we can feel how happy this makes you. So that makes it even more special to have the time with you.
Thank you. I don't know where we're at with time, speaking of that.
Well, it looks like we're about at time, but I don't want to cut you off if you have other things that you'd like to share with the viewers.
I can quick bang this one out for you real fast. We did a honey spice cake with a honey gelato. Let me quick get this done for us. Sometimes I would like to brulee the top of this cake. I would take a little sugar or something, sorry, yeah, sugar, and put it on top, and then I would brulee it a little bit. You know, we might want to, it's a little warm up here. So things are melting. Little fresh citrus. Definitely a little honeycomb. And then just out here, a little honey gelato. And then just out there, a little sauce. Great. And that's that real fast.
Beautiful, beautiful.
I just wanted to get it out there for you.
Well, I'm glad you did. There's always room for dessert. That looks fabulous. Oh my gosh.
Thank you, Jackie.
Well, Chef, before I go into our closing remarks and letting everyone know about our next upcoming webinars, do you have any final words that you'd like to share with those who tuned in today?
No, I just want to say thank you for taking the time, sharing, you know, the last hour or so with us. We, you know, I know I appreciate it, and I'm thankful, you know, for everything. And I look forward to seeing everybody in August at the National Convention, and we'll go from there. Be safe, be healthy, be kind.
Thank you. Thank you. And a huge virtual round of applause as we thank Chef Joe Leonardi, Certified Master Chef, for sharing such a fun, insightful, and passionate presentation. I really wish I was up there. Those dishes look great. So we appreciate you taking the time and sharing with our ACF community of culinary professionals. And the ACF wants to hear from you, our viewers. So be on the lookout for a survey that you'll receive by the end of the week. So please complete that survey in order to earn your 1 hour of continuing education hours, and also to let us know what you thought of the presentation. Next week, we will offer 2 great webinars as we look ahead to learn more about trends and what's hot for menus in 2021 and beyond. We hope that you'll join us. Our next webinar will be May 4th, as we'll welcome Chef Cespedes to tell us more about trends in food and cocktails, as well as on May 6th, when we'll learn more about important insights about 2021 consumer dining trends. For more information, for culinary news, or to register for an upcoming webinar, please check out our website, wearechefs.com. We, again, thank you on behalf of the ACF National Office. Thank you to Chef Leonardi for this opportunity, for bringing us right to your apiary, and thank you all for tuning in today. We hope to see you soon at ACF National Convention. Chef Leonardi and I will be there, and we will look forward to welcoming you in Orlando this summer. Thank you all.